You have a real acoustic drum. The drummer tracked a great performance. You need to augment and enhance the snare sound with samples, but you want to preserve the natural feeling and, most important, the snare ghost notes. Let's see what we can do about it. Hello everyone and welcome back to MixBuzz TV mixing and mastering tutorials on YouTube. I'm your host David, and in this video we take a look at what did I do in this mix where I had a real acoustic drum, a good performance from the drummer with a lot of ghost notes on the snare, which were a big part of the overall feeling of the song. But I needed to do two things. One, help the snare sound by layering samples on top of it, and not only preserve but enhance the ghost notes. And I didn't have a bottom mic, so it was a little more tricky this time, but we made it. First thing, you can listen to the final product, link in the info box down below. The song is called In the Dead of Night by Batlord. Very cool band. The mix came out great. I'm happy with it. The song was really cool and the tracks sent to me were really good to begin with. Great artists are always easier to mix. But let's get to the subject of this video. Let me start by saying one thing first. For this mix, I had 3 hardware compressors on the drum. One on the kick, one on the snare, and one on the whole drum bus, which I don't have here right now. So what you're going to hear in this video are not exactly the same sounds as the final product, but that's why I put the link in the info box down below, and this is not going to affect the technique that I'm showing you today anyway. So let's listen really quick to the mix. So as you can hear, the ghost notes on the snare are a big part of the groove, big part of the feeling of the song, especially in the chorus. Let's listen to just the drums. Okay, now let's try to mute everything, and I will have you listen to just the original snare, and then we'll listen to the samples, and we'll take a look at what did I do on the ghost notes. And we should be good. This is the original snare. Among the processing that I have a gate, because I needed to gate all the noises, the bleed from the hi-hats. Let's bypass this so you can hear the original ghost notes. With the gate. So the drum sounded okay, but like I said, I needed samples to reinforce the snare sound. But I wanted to keep the original feeling. So the first thing that I did is to keep some of the original snare in. But I cleaned it up with the gate. I did some processing on it, some EQ, some saturation, etc. But I kept the original snare sound low in level. This is the send that goes to the drum bus, is a minus 12 dB, but I needed it in order to keep the human component. And let's take a listen to what samples I added. This is the main one. Big, fat, heavy snare. Then I have another one. Both are stereo, these two. This is a more roomy, far away kind of snare. Then I have a third sample, which is this, that gives me the high end and the ring. I've chosen this sample, the ringing snare with the note, because the original had it. The original had that ring, and I choked it with the gate. It wasn't that good sounding, to begin with, the ring of the original snare, but the idea of having a ringing snare is what I wanted to keep. So I decided to add this red track here, which was the last touch for the snare. This is the original plus the ringing snare. Let's add the other two samples. And the fat one. And now we have this track here, which is what we are going to analyze. And this is the ghost note enhancing track. Let's hear it by itself first. Sounds weird, doesn't it? And this is one general concept that is important to keep in mind. Not all the single tracks in your mix have to sound pristine. This one by itself, it sounds like crap because it's all chopped up. And but in the mix, you don't hear the abrupt cut. You only hear the end result, which is what's important. You hear the ghost note being enhanced and everything, and it goes along with the snare part very well. Now let's hear all together, all the snares, samples, and ghost notes. So let's take a look at what did I do with the ghost notes track to end up like this. I grabbed the original snare track and copied. And here we have the exact copy before the editing. And simply, what did I do was to engage the tab to transient function up here, then just tab to transient and cut the single hits of the snare. Like here, first one. Then the next transient, then you tab, Control E, you cut it again, and you scroll and keep doing this for all the single hits. It's important to cut to the next transient after the snare hit to isolate. Like I didn't do it here and I have to do it. And again, here, next one, and here, next one, and so on. Once you have isolated and cut all the snare hits, you simply delete them, and you're left with just what's in between, the ghost notes. The end result, once you've done it for the whole track, is this. As you can see, there are no snare hits. See, this down here is the original snare. Every time a snare hits is present, there's no audio here in this ghost track. You can see that. And then you process this track according to the mix to what you need to do for the song. Let's mute everything but that track and we take a look at the processing I did on it. I have low cut, high cut with the SSL, a little bit of EQ, minus 5 dB at 16 in bell mode to remove the hi-hat bleed and whatever I don't need in the low end. Since I didn't have a bottom mic, this EQ, it kind of makes it sound like it was a bottom mic. Let's hear without it. Okay, there's low end that we don't need. There's high end that we don't need. So this is the first EQ. It sounds like this. Then with the API EQ, I gave it a couple of dB at 3K and removed, again, some of the low end that I didn't need. Let's hear it with and without. It's pretty impressive how just 2 dB at 3K with the API, it makes it so much more open. But anyway, let's see the last plugin, which is the regular stock EQ that comes with Pro Tools. And here I removed just 3 dB around 550 and gave it a little more bite around 1.3. And like I said, you just edit the whole track up to the end, and you have your isolated ghost note track for the snare. You have your samples, which give you power and the kind of sound that the mix needed, in my opinion. And you keep the original feeling of the song, the original idea, first of all, because the ghost notes are not just a ear candy, are a big part of the sound. And you keep a little bit of the original snare so that the samples and the whole drum kit sound cohesive, and the samples don't sound like, you know, they are just stickers put there. And let's hear it again, and we start to unmute all the other components so you will hear the ghost note track blend into the drum kit. Add this little bit of reverb here, and everything sound much more cohesive. So as you can see, if you do it right, you can add 1, 2, up to 3 samples on the snare and keep the original feeling, keep the human component of the performance, and have your drum sound good. And this is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was useful. If you have any question in general or something specific about this technique, write it in the comment down below or on our Facebook or Twitter page. If you like the video, please don't forget to click the like button. Join us on Facebook and Twitter. In there, you can ask questions. We collect questions for future Q&As, and it's overall the best way to keep in touch with us. In both our Facebook and Twitter page, you will find the link to the video of the song if you're interested. Support MixBuzz TV by sharing the videos on social media, blogs, and forums. Subscribe if you haven't already, and see you next time.